Okay, the West County Connectors project. What is it? Well, it's essentially the 22 phase 2, if you want to think of it like that, and it will carry these HOV lanes that we have on the 22 today that terminate just east of Valley View Street, here just east of the 405-22 interchange, and we're carrying those new HOV lanes over the interchange with the 22 and the 405 onto the 405 freeway, along the 405 and up onto the 605, and in essence then we're connecting the 22 to the 405 to the 605 as far as these HOV, high occupancy vehicle carpool lanes. Now what we've done is we've broken the West County Connectors project into two segments. We've got the east and the west segment. And we did that for a number of reasons, but essentially, anyway, the two segments take us, as I say, just east of Valley View onto the 405 here around about where Lampson is, and then the west segment takes us from there up onto the 605 freeway. So the schedule for the project, the east segment, we've actually opened bids, and we expect to have a construction contract approval this month, and the contractor typically has 55 days in order to mobilize, and so we would expect to see them out there in July of this year. And for the west segment, it's out for bids at the moment. Caltrans have advertised it. We will be opening bids on July 1st, and again construction contract approval approximately August, with construction scheduled to begin approximately October of this year. And just to give you a little overview, I've spoken about us and Caltrans, and of course it's not an us and them scenario. But before I get on to that, I'll just talk about the funding. First of all, for the east segment, we have a total of $200 million, which is a combination of $150 million in CMAQ program dollars, and then another $50 million in American Recovery and Reinvestment Act dollars. And for the west segment, it's all $200 million in Corridor Mobility Improvement Act, which is Prop 1B funding to you and me. So for a total of $400 million is our budget. Now, just to get back to the us and them scenario with OCTA, we oversaw the design of both the east and the west segments, and we're also providing construction management consultants during the construction of the project, and we're also overseeing the community outreach for the West County Connectors project. Caltrans provided design independent quality assurance for the project during design, and then Caltrans will administer construction of the West County Connectors project. So where is it? I don't know how familiar everybody is, of course, with the area, but if right now this overhead shows us we're over College Park East, and on the right-hand side here is the Seal Beach Naval Weapons Station. So we're looking down the 405 freeway. Here's the 22 coming out here. And the idea of this overhead is to show us approximately where this new HOV connector bridge is going to go, which is from the center of the 22 freeway over the interchange with the 405 and down onto the 405 freeway. We're building an extra 2 lanes on the 405 freeway, so today there are 2 carpool lanes, or HOV lanes, on the 405 freeway. When we're done, there will be 4 carpool lanes, that's 2 in each direction. So up at the west end of the project, we're kind of over Long Beach a little bit, looking back over Rossmore. And again, this overhead shows us the approximate location of where this new HOV connector bridge is going to go to take us from the 405 to connect up with the existing HOV lanes on the 605. So part of widening the freeway, we have to demolish a few bridges, and one of them is at the 7th Street off-ramp. As I know it, it's the North 405 West 22 connector bridge, and unfortunately with this bridge, unlike Seal Beach Boulevard and Valley View Street Bridge, this bridge has to be demolished all at once, and there are various reasons for that. The simplest one being is space constraint, and we're crossing the freeway here at an angle, and the existing bridge, the way it was built in the first place, it doesn't allow us to demolish in 2 halves, which you'll see in the next couple of slides what we're doing at Seal Beach Boulevard. So anyway, the 7th Street bridge, when we demolish and reconstruct it, will be closed for approximately 1 year. Now every time I give this kind of show and tell, I always stop when I say 1 year, because there's usually a collective intake, gulp, and everybody, especially in Long Beach, they all kind of freak out. Well, a year, what are we going to do for a year while this bridge is closed? And while we've worked with the cities of Long Beach and all of the others around to work on various detour routes, this one is probably the most important for when that one bridge is out, and it shows all the detour routes that we've proposed. We have a traffic management plan, we have cooperative agreements with all of the cities to work through during the time when we have that detour route in place, when the bridge is closed. You can see one of the detour routes, for example, if you're coming up to 405 and you wanted to get into Long Beach, would be to take Westminster and just take that straight into Long Beach. Or another way to do it would be to stay on the 405 and get off of Palo Verde. And I kind of like this one where you take a left on Palo Verde and you get back on the 405 south and get back into Long Beach west on the 22 on that detour route. So just to point out that it's just the north 405 west 22 connector that will be closed. The south 405 west 22 connector and the south 605 west 22 connector will remain open. And so there are various different ways to get in and out of Long Beach. Now I talked about the 7th Street Bridge, the way it was built. Fortunately for Seal Beach Boulevard Bridge, you can see that this bridge is held up with 4 columns in cross section. And what that allows us to do is literally cut the bridge down the middle and reconstruct it in 2 halves. So the plan is to demolish the west half of the bridge first. And to do that, we'll shift traffic onto the east side of the bridge, reconstruct the west half of the bridge, shift traffic back onto the newly constructed west half, demolish the east half, reconstruct it, connect them together, and presto, we have a new 7-lane bridge that crosses 405 at Seal Beach Boulevard. And people often think, well, you've got 3 southbound, 4 northbound, why the additional northbound lane? And that's really, if you think of it as almost like an auxiliary lane for traffic that comes off the 405 onto Seal Beach Boulevard, or traffic going over Seal Beach Boulevard Bridge and getting back onto the 405 north. So there's additional traffic that takes that maneuver, and hence we have an additional lane just for that. So Valley View Street Bridge is essentially the same as Seal Beach Boulevard. I won't go through the steps, but again, we'll demolish it in 2 halves. One of the things to point out is that we have incentive and disincentive clauses on these bridges, the 3 of these bridges, and what it does is it provides an incentive to the contractor. If they get done up to a month ahead of schedule, they receive an incentive, and if they're behind schedule, they're hit with a disincentive. And we've used this in various projects, including the I-5 Gateway project, and every time the contractor has made that incentive, in other words, it speeds up the critical components of the project to alleviate traffic congestion caused by the reconstruction of these bridges. This slide just shows you an overview of all of the detour routes. Now, these won't all be in place all at the same time, but it does give you a good idea as to the scope of just how much coordination, for one thing, we've done with all of the other cities that are impacted, and also just how far away people will have to travel in order to get around, frankly, some of these construction issues and congestion, should we have it. One thing to point out is on the 405 itself, we're not reducing any lanes for the duration of the project, and so we actually expect traffic to still move as well as it does on the 405. One of the concerns that the public had was emergency services in this location, and again, we've got Leisure World to the south of the 405 and a lot of medical facilities on the north side of the 405 up along Patella. And so we've been very proactive in getting out and coordinating with the emergency services in this area. And we've had a lot of meetings. We had one last week to make sure that they're talking together, that they know exactly what the schedule is, what the impacts may be, and how best they can work together to ensure that they all have adequate service during construction. One of the things we've also added to the project is the center median of the Seal Beach Boulevard Bridge. And this is when we're just down to 2 lanes on that bridge for the first 10 months of construction. The center median will be striped specifically and only for emergency vehicle use only, and that's one of the things that they've requested and that we've been able to include in our project, they being the emergency. Closures, as I said, the 7th Street Bridge will be closed for up to 12 months, 11 months if the contractor makes the incentive schedule, and then also the East 22 North 405 will be closed also for 10 months. This bridge isn't quite as hold as much traffic as the 7th Street Bridge, and there are various other alternatives for people in Long Beach who want to get north on the 405 to take surface streets to get onto the 405. And then a couple of other closures, just 2 weeks each, the South 605, South 405, and the East 22 South 405. Both of those also have disincentive clauses on them, even though they're just for 2 weeks. We mulled over, do we want to do it nighttime work, weekend work? We figured the best thing is just bite the bullet, close the connector, and get the contractor in and out as quickly as possible. And again, we have detour routes in place, agreements with all of the cities impacted to ensure that that goes as well as possible. This gives us an overall construction sequencing of the project, and briefly I'll just touch on what kind of jumps out to me anyways. On the top we have the east segment, on the bottom we have the west segment, and what's important to show here briefly is that the Valley View Street Bridge will be complete before work begins on the Seal Beach Boulevard Bridge, which is down here, and that's important. Obviously, they're the only two main north-south crossings of the 405 in this area. And then the other thing to point out briefly is the 7th Street Bridge, which the hatching shows that it will be closed, will be open before work begins on Seal Beach Boulevard Bridge. And so again, we've been out with the cities and we're trying our best to determine with Caltrans how to minimize any potential impacts during the construction of these new bridges. So the right-of-way impacts have been minimal, and we've tried to keep it that way by building these new connectors with retaining walls alongside them, so it's not your typical earthen embankment that you'll see. So that keeps everything close to where we need it in the center of the freeway. And so with these retaining walls, we've come up with these project aesthetics, and on the east segment for the HOV retaining walls along there, the motif is Egret takes flight, and that's in keeping with the Bolsa Chica Nature Reserve that's in the area. On the west segment, closer to the ocean, to Seal Beach, we have seals and seaweed, and that's one of the ones that the city of Seal Beach really likes. With that, I'll hand it over to Christina Byrne, who's been our outreach person, officer during the project.
Thank you, Niall. I just wanted to share with you that over the past, over two and a half years now, we've been out speaking with the public, all the cities along the corridor, sharing with them the aspects of the project, especially the detours. Many of them will cut off major areas of the cities, and we wanted to make sure we worked with them, especially like Cal State Long Beach, the Veterans Hospital. And in this case, very unique to this project, we're working with a lot of communities outside of Orange County, which we haven't done very often. And so we started our outreach campaign during final design, which is very unique. Typically, we only start about 6 months before construction. And some of the main aspects of our campaign is City Council Traffic Commission briefings, open houses, our website, construction email alerts that get blasted out to the database of over 2,500 stakeholders, e-newsletters that go out quarterly, Speakers Bureau, and media relations. And of those different tactics, we've had several accomplishments since January of 2008. And as you can see by the numbers, we've really been out there pounding the pavement. Especially the door-to-door business visits, 600 of those. I personally went door-to-door and visited 600 businesses in the corridor and shared with them the materials that we shared with you today, and make sure that they had a face they could call during construction if they had any concerns. And our website gets quite a few hits, and I'm assuming that'll grow during construction. But doing the main tool that we use during construction is those neighborhood meetings, which haven't even started yet. We've just had 29 basic open houses, and then also some homeowners association meetings. And that will be when we go on a Saturday and actually meet up with the community, have coffee and donuts on a neighborhood's driveway, and share with them project information. So we'll have several hundred of those during the course of the project. So with that, that's the overview on the project, and if you have any questions, now I